Let's be honest, everybody's anxiously waiting for the next God of War entries to finally kill the legendary Thor, for the main purpose of getting his awesome Mjolnir, a weapon whose lightning strike would put Zeus's thunderbolt to shame, a weapon that will allow us to kill Jotuns with one hit, a weapon that might allow Kratos to fly all around Midgard? Question mark? Regardless, that day is still far off. Until then, we have some awesome God of War weapons to rank, and gosh darn it, they are awesome. Kratos has used many weapons to kill every kind of Olympian monstrosity, so I just thought I'd take a look at all the weapons Kratos has held in his hand and do one of my classic top 10s. So, here we go. Also, none of the God of War Ascension sub-weapons made it into the list. You wanna know why? Because Todd Pappy decided not to include them. Instead, he gave us these disposable weapons that were just stupid to use. Honestly, why does Ascension even exist? It should crawl into a hole and just die. Midway through the first game, Artemis decides to give you this anime-looking sword to help you on your quest of killing Ares, and honestly, getting this weapon is like getting a Slinky for Christmas. Although it's fun to chop down enemies in half, and the weapon feels great when making contact with said enemies, you'll only use it for a few minutes before going back to the Blades of Chaos, to kill faster enemies like the Medusas or the Sirens. Aside from being slow, it's also a shame that the weapon had no new flashy moves when leveled up, it only got stronger. Oh no, how dare it get stronger. Although leveling it up to the max will allow you to kill enemies really quickly, it doesn't really offer a rewarding learning curve, as it starts off with a few moves and never really progresses further. Out of all the weapons on this list, the way Kratos obtains the Spear of Destiny is the coolest. Kratos engages in a fight with, let's call him the Griffin General. After a few quick time events, Kratos stabs the Griffin with his spear and leaves it stuck in his neck. I honestly forgot about this weapon. I thought it was just something Kratos used to kill the boss, but a few hours later this happened. Right from the get-go, the weapon felt better than the Barbarian Hammer. The spear was fast and could reach far away enemies. It also had some cool flashy moves like shooting crystal shards, or my favorite, the explosive little pod thingy. If I had one complaint, it would be that the weapon is not really versatile when it comes to doing combos. There's only a few combinations of buttons you can press before it gets too old. As you well know, I hate God of War Ascension. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes this series has ever done, and when I say one of the biggest mistakes, I mean it, because by far the biggest mistake was not using the Blade of Olympus as a full-time weapon. Because my friends, the Blade of Olympus was an amazing weapon. It looked cool, it was fast, and had some awesome moves. But no, Santa Monica decided to only give it to you for a few minutes before having Zeus take them from your hands. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think it would have been cool to get the blade before the ending of the game, with enough time to upgrade them. Instead, we got to use it against Zeus at the end and at the Game Plus mode, and by then the blade was too overpowered to be enjoyed. That's the only reason this weapon gets the number 8 spot. It's because of Santa Monica's fault. This weapon could have been much higher in the list if it were given the proper time to level up. On the third encounter with Hephaestus, he promised Kratos to make a weapon of immeasurable power that will help him destroy Zeus. All he needs to do is kill the legendary Kronos. I was overflowing with expectations as to what their weapon would be like. I was thinking something along the lines of the Blade of Olympus, but instead we got the Nemesis Whip. It's true that the weapon is basically a copy of the Blades of Chaos. It even has the nerve of copying some of its moves, but it is also undeniable how useful it can be in battle, especially in harder playthroughs of the game, as using it will give you a wide range of orbs, such as health, magic, and even rage. The weapon is also good for God of War noobs, as you can hold down either square or triangle button to deliver combos that seem to never end. But due to the similarity of the more superior chain blades, I rarely used it. I don't think it's a bad weapon, I just think it was bad for God of War 3. It would have been better to have it as a secondary weapon in God of War 2. Just change the useless junk that was the Barbarian Hammer and put this mad weapon combo instead. The Gauntlet of Zeus, such an awesomely designed weapon. When used, it would sound like lions devouring its prey, and aside from being used in combat, they would also be needed to progress certain parts of the levels, like the chain that holds Pandora's temple on Kronos' back. Wait! This is not the gauntlet I'm talking about. There were two of them. and they had the shape of lions' heads. Because, my friends, the number 4 spot is... What can I say about the Nemian Cestus? You have to fight the mighty Hercules to obtain them. After brutally taking them, you start to realize that the weapon is needed more than just for combat. You remember those goons Zeus hired to protect Helios? Well, you no longer have to use a Cyclops to break their defense. You can just use the Nemian Cestus to turn their shields to smithereens. Honestly, using this weapon was a blast, including its blast attack. It was no surprise that Santa Monica included them in the teaser trailer for God of War 3. They looked cool, they were fast, and packed a strong punch. Or punches. When it came to the Bow of Apollo, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to include it as a weapon, because in reality it belongs to the items list, along with the head of Helios and the boots of Hermes. But I thought, the bow was considered a weapon in ancient days along with swords and spears, so here it is. And even though it can cause some serious damage by burning an entire crowd of enemies, the bow's two main purposes were crowd control and combo enhancer. You can launch an enemy in the air and shower him with a storm of arrows in a few seconds, simply to keep him suspended in the air to give the player more time for combos. Although I would have appreciated more moves as you leveled it up, it was still an important addition to the series. I seriously think Santa Monica created the item bar just to use the Bow of Apollo, as it no longer needed magic orbs to be used like Typhon's Bane. It was simple: shoot, wait a few seconds for a recharge, then shoot again. It was beautiful. At the number 4 spot, we have the Claws of Hades. During my first playthrough of God of War 3, I kind of ignored them, maybe because my last experience with a purple weapon was meh. But once you start playing with them, you realize that these weapons are beyond awesome. For starters, their sound design is magnificent, as the souls the weapon carries moan in agony with every strike Kratos performs. And if you think the Claws of Hades are just another clone of the Blades of Chaos, you are heavily mistaken, as they have their own different feel to it, almost as if they were moving on their own. But by far the coolest thing this claws offers is the ability to change its power. You start off with Cerberus, and as you level up you gain different souls, like a Medusa that can actually freeze smaller enemies, or a Centaur that can be used against Zeus to knock him on his butt, a Cyclops, an Olympian Sentry, and many more. Honestly, if Santa Monica would have started off the series with this weapon instead of the Blades of Chaos, it would have been still just as epic. Okay, I take that back. God of War Goes to Sparta is the most underrated game in the series. Its story was great, the graphics were pushing the PSP to its limits, and the combat was amazing. And one of the things that made the combat so great was the arms of Sparta. We all knew that Kratos was a Spartan, but he never used his homeland weaponry until this game came along and allowed us to become Spartans. The weapon was fast and, more importantly, versatile. It could block any attack with its giant shield, it had a cool charge move, and aside from using the spear at close range, it could also be thrown at faraway enemies. And most importantly, that shield slam. It's as if Santa Monica rolled 3 weapons into one, and the Arms of Sparta came out. If Santa Monica comes out tomorrow and announces a prequel that takes place during the years Kratos trained to become a Spartan warrior, and its main weapon in the game are the Arms of Sparta, I would be pretty mad, because I really want to know what comes after God of War 4. But I would still be excited to play with these weapons one more time, because out of all the sub-weapons in the series, the Arms of Sparta are simply the best. Okay, no matter what weapon I pick for the number 2 spot, a big chunk of my fans are going to get mad, so it doesn't really matter which one I pick. So, the number 2 spot goes to the Blades of Chaos. Yeah, I know, but let us move on. I'm not gonna take the time I have for this entry and talk about why it's not number 1, but I am gonna talk about why it sits at an awesome number 2 spot. The Blades of Chaos came into the gaming industry and said, hey, this is how you do a hack and slasher game. And the Blades dominated the first 6 games of the series, and each game brought their own different identity to the Blades. So the question must be asked, which one delivered the best Blades? And that without a question was God of War 3's Blades of Exile. Up until God of War 3, the Blades were known to be fast, flashy, and had an epic story to boot. But God of War 3 introduced one little move that completely changed the way we played the game. Okay, maybe it didn't change it that much. But L1 plus circle was amazing, as it allowed the player to get closer to an enemy in a matter of seconds, to further continue your dismembering. The Blades of Chaos put God of War on the map. They will always be important to the series both in terms of the story and gameplay, to the point of making an appearance in the latest God of War game, and I imagine they will continue to be in the series for years to come. They are simply that legendary to play with. I have never, and I say never, played with a weapon as cool as the Leviathan Axe. It's true that it doesn't carry the same weight when it comes to the story of the series like the Blades of Chaos. Yet, Corey has said that the axe is here to stay, and it will become more important as the series goes on. And if my latest theory video is correct, the axe will be used to kill Thor. Yeah, that's right. But even if it wouldn't have all the hype behind it, the axe would still get the #1 spot. I can assure you that none of us has the same Leviathan Axe, and that's due to how customizable the runes are. I, for example, have not changed the rune that allows me to throw the axe up into space and when calling it back hitting every enemy in sight, but I know that there's a lot of equally awesome runes in my inventory waiting for me to explore them. The axe is also versatile. It's fast, it can be thrown at faraway enemies, you can lock onto different parts of the enemy's body and let it do all the work for you. I cannot think of a negative thing to say about this weapon, from its artistic design to all of its flashy move to the callback. Oh wow, the callback will never get old, it just feels good. Corey really understands the God of War series. He knew that the old games were getting repetitive, and therefore needed some big changes. I would say that the biggest change was the world Kratos finds himself in, and the second biggest change was replacing the Blades of Chaos for the Leviathan Axe. This weapon was meant for this game. It has depth, it's fast, and it has potential of being the greatest weapon in all of gaming history. Can I get a victory move, Kratos? So that's my official ranking of the 10 best God of War weapons, and from the community poll I did a week ago, you guys seem to think differently, but I still want to know your thoughts on which is the best weapon this series has to offer, so please leave a comment below. If you liked the video, please hit that like button and share it with your friends. My main goal for this channel is to become the top God of War channel in all of YouTube, and I need your help to do so. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give me, it truly means a lot. If you're new to the channel and haven't decided whether to subscribe yet, I invite you to watch a few of my other videos, like my top 10 future boss battles for the series, or the theory about Jormungandr's Venom. And that's it for today, thanks for watching, goodbye. Ah!